Darien know that I didn't? I watched him disappear into the gloom. The war wasn't going well. We'd heard rumor enough to suspect it. I turned my back on the compound to see the first red light of dawn touch the waterfall to the north called the Roaring. Lights fluttered on in the village of Riot far below. Smoke in the chimneys spoke of renewal, the turning of the clock. Tomorrow, the ministry's gold would flow into Riot through our aeries. Brood Day was a celebration for the villagers too, for all of us. The clop of hooves and rattle of wheels turned my head. A wagon crossed the yard onto the bridge, pulled by a bay mare. A lantern swinging from a hook illuminated the driver. "Fren!" I jogged to the wagon and climbed up. I'd known Fren all my life. He'd let me ride his horse when I could barely walk. We seldom saw him more than twice a year. In the winter when he brought us ice from the high lakes to replenish the vaults, and on Brood Day when he brought us wood chips for the nests. Between times, he might wander in with lumber or a deer for our dragons, or news from the forest. The load of cedar chips in the wagon filled my nose with its spicy perfume. It would make a clean, pleasant presentation of the nests. "How's your shadow, m'lady?" He looked down at me with the wide smile that deepened the laugh lines around his mouth and crinkled the corners of his eyes. "My shadow as well. How's yours?" "Well," he laughed. This was our usual greeting. Fren told me once that it meant something particular. A person has two shadows, the one made by the sun, and the one that follows each person after death, the after effects of every deed. "Allow light to balance the darkness," he'd explained. "For everything you do leaves a shadow, a ripple on the evertide." You were supposed to keep an eye on your shadow, the second kind. I didn't know what it meant, really. Something only Fren ever said. "This is a new horse," he pointed. "I'll need to keep some distance today, 'cause she's not used to dragons." "I'm sure she'll be fine. We'll keep an eye out for you." I bounced down from his wagon and started toward the paddock. "Happy Brood Day, Miss Maia," he called after me. "I know your expectations are high this year, but don't forget, you were born the day of a morning tide. You're lucky." I laughed, but I didn't feel lucky. Not with my brother acting strange and Mother's words echoing in my memory. I turned and hurried after Darien. The sound of the roaring swallowed the scuff of my boots on the bridge paving. Beyond the tall stone walls of the storehouse, the paddock was a blur of action. Local farmers unloaded crates of melons and squawking chickens for the dragons' dinners, or shoveled out cartloads of straw or wood chips into holding bins. Extra hands hired from the farms swept and raked every inch of the compound. The tack house doors were open wide, and the saddles already rolled out for the brood parents' outing. The oiled leather and studs sparkled in the lamplight. I turned the corner toward the still-closed brood house, full of dragon kits, and almost ran into Darien. He'd stopped to watch the show. "Don't put that there!" Father waved off a sweating farmer's son backing a rickety cart up to one of the bins. "You! What are you doing? I told you to wait with that straw. It doesn't go there." The scrawny youth wrestled with the reins of his nervous horse, one eye on Father as he struggled to turn his cart out of the way. The poor boy looked ready to whip up his horse and bolt. I felt for him. On the day before Brood Day, Father's temper could be quick. He was a big man. His name, Maia, meant mighty. Tattoos from his time in the dragonry covered his arms. He had the bond mark, of course, and his insignias of rank, but also the strange filigree of the healing craft around his scars. He was imposing in any circumstance, but even more so with Shuja next to him. Huge and jet black, Shuja stepped eagerly into place under the saddle jib, his massive wings tucked in close, his long neck arched, the frill stretched taut and upright. "Hunt," Shuja said happily. He was a good speaker.